Hello and welcome to another Magic the Gathering draft video. We are looking at Alchemy Horizons Baldur's Gate. This is the draft primer for the set. As always, please click like and subscribe if you'd like to help the channel. It really helps a lot. Let's get right to it. Here we go. And let's jump right into it. Alchemy Horizons Baldur's Gate features many reprints from Adventures of the Forgotten Realms, if you remember that set, and I expect the gameplay and strategies to feel quite similar. Let's start with the mechanics. First mechanic we'll look at is Perpetual. This modifies a card for the rest of the game. The modifications remain even if the card changes zones, if it's put into the graveyard or returned to hand, for example. Next, we'll look at Conjure. Conjure creates a new card. It is a real card, not a token. It can go to the graveyard. It can be returned to hand. It can be shuffled into a library, etc. For example, here, Sea Tower Imprisonment creates a copy of Soldiers of the Watch and puts it right into play. The next mechanic is Seek. Seek pulls a random card out of our deck meeting a certain criteria. For example, a non-land card. The card is not a copy, it is the real card, and the effect does not shuffle our deck. The next mechanic is Boon. A boon is a delayed effect that triggers upon a specific event. Typically, a boon modifies a creature and triggers upon that creature being cast. For example, here with Flaming Fist Duskguard, the next creature we cast after Flaming Fist Duskguard will have +1/+0. These are nice value additions to already on-rate spells that encourage us to play a higher number of creatures. The next mechanic is Double Team. When a creature with Double Team attacks for the first time, we conjure a copy of it into our hand. Then it and the copy lose the Double Team ability. And then we have to pay the mana cost, of course, to cast the copy. The copy is a real card in hand, so there could be synergy with something like a discard outlet. If the copy should go to the graveyard, it'll stay there just like a real card. Double Team is part of Red-White's theme of having multiple creatures with the same name in play or in the graveyard. Finally, we have Specialize. Specialize is a sorcery speed activated ability found on creatures which requires us to pay a cost and discard a card. The creature then transforms into one of 5 possible creatures depending on the color or basic land type of the discarded card. So we can see here Jaheira Harper Emissary. If we discard a blue card or an island, it becomes a blue-green card. If we discard a mountain or red card to the specialized ability, it becomes a red-green card. Once transformed, the creature stays that way even when returned to hand or put in the graveyard. The specialized forms even have different casting costs in case they need to be recast. Be wary of activating Specialized when your opponent has mana open, as they can kill our creature in response, wasting our mana and the card that we discarded. Look for specialized creatures that are good on their front side and ones that make up for the discarded card by providing card advantage. Finally, do not discard artifacts to specialize unless it's for science, because I'm pretty sure nothing will happen if you do that. Alright, let's talk general strategy for the format. I expect Alchemy Horizons Baldur's Gate to have a similar core set feel and level of complexity akin to Adventures in the Forgotten Realms. As such, most decks will want the best creatures at each mana cost, prioritizing 2 mana creatures and aggressive game plans. Synergies will feel a bit more incidental and thematic rather than something we are specifically looking to build towards. However, if one synergy proves to be better supported, as Treasures was in Adventures in the Forgotten Realms, it may quickly rise to the top of the power rankings over the other archetypes. Here are my brief impressions of each of the 2 color archetypes in the format. We will be trying to end up in one of these by the end of the draft. Let's start with White-Blue Blink. The signpost uncommon is Oji the Exquisite Blade. 2 white-blue for a 2/3. When it enters the battlefield, you gain 2 life and scry 2. Whenever you cast your second spell each turn, exile up to 1 target creature you control, then return it to the battlefield under its owner's control. White-blue appears to be a tempo aggro deck based around white aggressive creatures and supported by blue's interaction. There's a little bit of synergy present in blinking cards like Priest of Ancient Lore and Juvenile Mistdragon with Icewind Stalwart, Oji the Exquisite Blade, and Pegasus Guardian, but that should not be the main game plan for this deck without multiple copies of these cards. Next is White-Black Leaving, as I'm calling it. The signpost uncommon is Minthara of the Absolute. 2 white-black for a 2/4. This card basically counts how many times a permanent has left the battlefield under our control throughout the game, and it then gives our creatures +X+O based on that number. White-Black's main theme is having cards leave the battlefield. Keep in mind this works with treasure tokens and blink effects, so if we're playing cards like Shambling Ghast, Sepulchre Ghoul, Deadly Dispute, and Rescuer Chwinga, Minthara will be excellent incidentally. Minthara should easily be a 4-mana 4/4 that gives our team +2/+0 most of the time and could be even better than that, so we'll want to play a good curve of creatures and lean aggressive to best support her. Be aware that trying to time creatures leaving the battlefield or dying for something like Grim Wanderer is typically more difficult than it seems and is often not worth it. Next archetype is White-Red Double Team. The signpost uncommon is Liara of the Flaming Fist. Red-white for a 2/2. At the beginning of each combat, each creature you control gets +1/+1 until end of turn if it has the same name as another creature you control or a creature card in your graveyard. It also has the ability for 1 red-white, give another non-token creature you control first strike and double team until end of turn. You can activate that ability only once. White-red is a typical aggressive deck. Kiara has some incidental synergy with double team creatures, but nothing we need to specifically work towards. The double team creatures all look solid to me. The strongest of them appear to be Knoll Hunting Party and Moradine's Disciples. This deck will end up going wide with a lot of creatures on board. There is not an excellent go wide payoff at common, but we do get Devoted Paladin and You Hear Something on Watch. There is also the amazing Battle Cry Goblin at uncommon. Next is White-Green LifeGain. The signpost uncommon is Trelasara Moondancer. Green-white for a 2/2. Whenever you gain life, put a 1/1 counter on it and scry 1. White-green is a creature-based deck looking to go a little bit bigger than something like red-white. Its creature sizing and life-gain sub-theme can make it a good counter archetype to decks like white-red and black-red. Trelasara is excellent with cards like Hill Giant Herd Gorger, Lulu Helpful Holophant, Priest of Ancient Lore, Prosperous Innkeeper, and Steadfast Paladin. The life gain theme is not really strong enough to make us want to play cards like Celestial Unicorn and Sylvan Shepherd, but they can be okay in a pinch. Lurking Roper can be strong if we have a lot of life gain to support it. Next is Blue-Black On Hit. The signpost uncommon is Cridle of Baldur's Gate. This is black for a 1/3. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, that player loses a life and mills a card. We gain a life and scry 1. And whenever we attack, we can pay 2. If we do, target creature can't be blocked this turn. That's any creature attacking, not necessarily Cridle, but any of our creatures that are attacking. This archetype features creatures with on-hit abilities, such as Guild Thief, Horde Robber, Soul Knife Spy, and Water Weird, and ways to make them unblockable, such as Allura Rogue Companion and the aforementioned Cridle. This is a pretty light theme and may not be worth actually building towards. Blue-Black does not have a very strong identity, and therefore it is probably best avoided early on in the format without some excellent rares pulling us in. Next we've got Green-Blue-Red, also known as TEMUR, Dragons. The signpost uncommons are Corlessa Scale Singer. This is green-blue for a 1/4 that lets us play dragons off the top of our library. Lozan Dragon's Legacy, 3 blue-red for a 4/2 flyer. Whenever you cast an adventure or dragon spell, it deals damage equal to that spell's mana value to any target. And Thrakis the Butcher, 3 red-green for a 3/4 trample. Whenever it attacks, double the power of each dragon you control until end of turn, including itself. Firstly, it's worth noting that red-green has a light pack tactics theme amongst Battle Cry Goblin, Knoll Hunter, and Hobgoblin Captain. There's not much support here, but a heavy red aggressive deck with a few Knoll Hunters should be pretty effective. Now for the actual dragons part of the archetype, TEMUR Dragons wants us to use ramp cards like Bronze Walrus, Druid of the Emerald Grove, Scaled Nurturer, and Underseller Myconid to cast big dragons such as Dread Lenorm, Emerald Dragon, Juvenile Mist Dragon, and Red Dragon. There are also some nice payoffs for including lots of dragons in our deck, like Draconic Muralists, Corlessa, Lozan, and Thrakus. There are a lot of dragon creatures along the mana curve as well. The orbs are not great since they don't fix our mana, but I would consider playing one Jade Orb of Dragon Kind for the stat boost. The deck will want to be base green to reliably play the mana creatures. I would recommend against including 2 and 3 mana creatures of 3 different colors in the same deck. Instead, we should choose 2 colors to be our base, likely green and blue due to Corlessa being a 2-drop, and splash the third color, red in this case, if we have a couple of cards that are worth splashing. Archetypes like this will sometimes struggle with drawing their pieces in the wrong order, for example, all big creatures and no ramp, but they can also get out to some great starts. Next is Black-Red Treasure. The signpost uncommon is Kaline Reclusive Painter. This is black-red for a 1/2, enters the battlefield and creates a treasure token, and other creatures you control enter the battlefield with an additional 1/1 counter on them for each mana from a treasure spent to cast them. The clear best deck in Adventures in the Forgotten Realms and a scourge of the format is back. Black-red makes treasure tokens and gives us cards that can use them for various effects such as Deadly Dispute, Skullport Merchant, Swashbuckler Extraordinaire, and the aforementioned Kaline. With an abundance of nearly free mana fixing, this is a great place to splash cards like Kenku Artificer, Cridle of Baldur's Gate, or any busted rare we might open or get past. There's also a steal and sack package in the form of Incessant Provocation alongside Deadly Dispute, Sepulchre Ghoul, and Skullport Merchant, which is quite powerful and worth trying to assemble. Black-red will likely be very strong and is worth going after early in the format. Finally, we have Black-Green Graveyard with the signpost uncommon Kaga Shadow Archdruid. This is 2 black-green for a 1/4. Whenever it attacks, it gains Death Touch until end of turn, and we mill 2 cards. Once during each of your turns, you may play a land or cast a permanent spell from among cards in your graveyard that were put there from your library this turn. Black-green is a mid-sized creature deck with a self-mill theme from cards like Ambitious Dragonborn, Bonecaller Cleric, Circle of the Land Druid, Druidic Ritual, Grey Slod, Kaga, Saravok the Usurper, Sigil of Miracle, Split the Spoils, and Summon Undead. Despite the large number of cards supporting this theme, I'm not sure it is worth building towards as the payoffs are not spectacular. I would recommend just playing cards that are good on their own if you find yourself in this color pair. Alright, let's get into the pick order for this set. As always, I think about pick order in terms of categories, and I encourage you to swap cards in and out of categories as you see fit. If a common is of rare power level, pick it like a rare. Our first category we're looking for when we open our pack of Baldur's Gate is our bomb rares. If it looks good, it probably is good. Generally speaking, the best rares are powerful, 1 color, and don't cost more than 6 mana. I believe all of the rare and mythic creatures with Specialize are excellent. I'm not going to list all the rares here as that would take quite a long time, but if you're interested in seeing my list, you can check out my Reddit companion article, which is linked in the description below. Bomb rares would include cards like Champions of Tyr, Minsk and Boo Timeless Heroes, and Tasha Unholy Archmage. Next, we'll be looking for the top uncommons and commons in the set. These have a high power level, are efficient, monocolored, and fit in multiple archetypes. These include the set's premium removal. Cards such as Battlecry Goblin, Cast Down, Dragon's Fire, Grim Bounty, Jaheira Harper Emissary, Juvenile Mist Dragon, Kaline Reclusive Painter, Lulu Forgetful Hollyphant, Mephit's Enthusiasm, Minthara of the Absolute, Priest of Ancient Lore, Prosperous Innkeeper, Rasad Monk of Saloon, Sea Tower Imprisonment, Sewer Plague, Skullport Merchant, and Viconia Night Singer's Disciple. Next, we're looking for the good commons and uncommons. These are slightly less powerful and flexible than the previous group, but they're cards that we're happy to play, and they may make us want to draft their color or color pair. In white, we're talking about cards like Blessed Hippogriff, Boroskir Tollkeeper, Flaming Fist Duskguard, Moradine's Disciples, Pegasus Guardian, Portable Hole, Rescuer Chwinga, Steadfast Paladin, and You're Confronted by Robbers. In blue, Seek New Knowledge, Sword Coast Serpent, Undersimplify, Water Weird, Wizened Githzerai, that's a tough one, and Young Blue Dragon. In black, we've got cards like Bonecaller Cleric, Deadly Dispute, Guildsworn Prowler, Saravok the Usurper, Sepulchre Ghoul, Shambling Ghast, and Vampire Spawn. In red, we've got Ambergris, Citadel Agent, Knoll Hunting Party, Goot, Fanatical Priestess, Hobgoblin Captain, Incessant Provocation, specifically if you have some good black sacrifice cards, Red Dragon, and Swashbuckler Extraordinaire. In green, we've got Draconic Muralists, Druid of the Emerald Grove if we're trying to build a ramp deck, Knoll Hunter for a bit more aggressive, Hill Giant, Herd Gorger, and Owlbear. Multicolored cards, we've got Cridle of Baldur's Gate, Liara of the Flaming Fist, and Trelisara Moondancer. And finally, in colorless cards, we've got Meteor Golem and the Cycle of Gate Lands. There's one of each color. They enter the battlefield tapped, and they let us seek a non-land card for a 4-mana activated ability. So as we're getting about halfway through a pack, typically we're starting to just pick up cards that are role players and filler cards. These roles could include 2-drops, removal, ramp, mana fixing, big creatures, combat tricks, and curve filler, kind of whatever we feel like our deck is lacking at that point in time. So if we're light on 2-drops, we might want to pick up cards like Genasi Rabble Rouser, Reckless Barbarian, Soldiers of the Watch, and Underdark Basilisk. If we're needing removal, we'll be looking to pick up cards like Band Together, Faraday's Fireball, Improvised Weaponry, Minimus Containment, Patriarch's Humiliation, Spiked Pit Trap, and You Hear Something on Watch. If we're in need of ramp and mana fixing, we'll want to pick up a card like Bronze Walrus, Follow the Tracks, Jade Orb of Dragonkind, which I think is the best of these orbs. I wouldn't really be interested in playing the other two. Lantern of Revealing, Navigation Orb, Pilgrim's Eye, Scaled Nurturer, and Underseller Myconid. If we need a big creature or two to top off our curve, we could pick up Air Cult Elemental, Baleful Beholder, Black Dragon, Chartling Dragon, Devoted Paladin, Dread Lenorm, Earth Cult Elemental, Emerald Dragon, Guardian Naga, Ranger Squadron, Rhyme Shield, Frost Giant, Scanos, Dragon Vassal, Thrakis the Butcher, or Warriors of Tiamat. All these cards are pretty good, but as you can see, there's quite a few of them, so I don't think they need to be prioritized heavily, which is why they're sort of in this role player filler category. Aggressive decks will want a couple of combat tricks. We can pick up Armor of Shadows, Hypnotic Pattern, Poison the Blade, or Valiant Farewell. And if we're in the right deck, we may want to pick up some of these synergistic cards such as Allura Rogue Companion, Ambitious Dragonborn, Blur, Breath Weapon, Celestial Unicorn, Grey Slod, Kaga Shadow Archdruid, Kenku Artificer, Corlessa Scalefinger, Lozhan Dragon's Legacy, Lurking Roper, Oji the Exquisite Blade, Sigil of Merkle, Soul Knife Spy, and Summon Undead. And finally, we've got straight up curve filler. If we need a 3-mana card or a 4-mana card, because we don't have very many, we could pick up something like Circle of the Moon Druid, Clever Conjurer, Dragonborn Immolator, Ettercap, Giant Fire Beetles, Hook Horror, Icewind Stalwart, Inspiring Bard, Irenicus's Vile Duplication, Jaded Sellsword, Lizard Folk Librarians, Pseudo Dragon Familiar, and Valor Singer. So in terms of my general draft strategy for a format like this, picks 1 to 3, we're simply taking the best card in the pack based on the pick order that I've outlined here or whatever pick order you are using for your own purposes. Picks 4 to 8, we're starting to form a picture of what colors are being passed to us. This is known as reading signal. For example, if we see a few solid black cards, picks 4 through 8, there's a good chance the players to our right are not drafting black. This is known as black being open. This means we can reasonably expect to see good black cards in pack 3 as well, as those same players will be passing to us again. In picks 9 through 14, these cards are known as the Wheel, the cards that no one at the table wanted the first time around. If we are seeing several playable cards of one color, it is possible that no one else at the table is drafting that color, and we should strongly consider moving in. At the end of pack 1, ideally we have identified our main color. This is the color we have the most quality cards of, or is the most open, and hopefully both. Staying as close to one color as possible will leave us with more options going forward. In packs 2 and 3, we will continue to take cards of our main color where possible and let the good cards we open or get past determine our secondary color and final archetype. Ignore signals in pack 2 for the most part. The packs are moving in the opposite direction, so the signals can be completely different from pack 1. It is normal to not see as many cards of our main color in pack 2, so don't panic. Pack 3 is passed to the left once again, and we will be rewarded for staying the course. Finally, we'll talk a few deck building tips. I recommend playing 2 colors and avoiding splashing a third color at all costs, unless the deck has access to lots of treasure or mana fixing in the case of TEMUR dragons. But most of the time, just stick to 2 colors. I recommend playing 17 lands, and I recommend playing a low curve. This means playing 6 or more 2 mana value creatures and very few cards that cost 5 or more mana. Sort of an even distribution of 3s and 4s. Finally, playing a couple of gate lands generally will not harm a deck's game plan, as there's only Shambling Ghast as a 1-drop that we actually would want to play. The gates help us to not run out of gas later in the game and are generally a boost to our deck's overall power level, so I'd recommend playing 1 or 2. And that's going to do it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Please do click like, click subscribe, and leave a comment if you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, we'll talk to you again real soon. Bye for now.